Drunk and laughing, my husband confessed to his friends that he'd been cheating on me for years. They all laughed like it was some hilarious joke. What they didn't know was that I heard every single word. I stood quietly in the hallway while my whole marriage collapsed in real time. And I didn't say a thing, because while he was busy laughing behind my back, I was already planning the kind of ending you only see in movies. I never thought I'd become one of those women whose life completely unravels. But here I am. Life has this cruel way of handing you pain with a grin. I'm Natalie. I'm 34. I was married to Jason. He's 37. We were together for 8 years. So if you've got a moment, let me tell you how the man I loved broke me, and how I burned everything he thought he'd get away with to the ground. If you've ever stood in the ruins of what you thought was a perfect life, drop a comment and let me know where you're watching from. Sometimes knowing you're not alone in this mess helps. Last Saturday was supposed to be perfect. I'd planned this spa weekend in Scottsdale with my sister Rachel for months. We'd booked massages, facials, the whole 9 yards. But then Rachel's daughter came down with strep throat Friday night and everything fell apart. You can't leave a sick 5-year-old, right? So I told her we'd reschedule, no big deal. Life happens. I thought about calling Jason to let him know I'd be home after all, but then I figured, why not surprise him? Maybe we could have one of those rare Saturday nights where we actually cook together, open a bottle of wine, pretend we're still those kids who met at that dive bar in Denver all those years ago. God, I was such an idiot. I pulled into our neighborhood in Aurora around 8 p.m. The second I turned onto our street, I recognized the cars. Marcus's Tesla, Ryan's ridiculous lifted truck, Todd's BMW with that stupid personalized plate. Jason had mentioned the guys were coming over to watch the game while I was supposed to be gone. Made sense. I parked in the garage and came in through the mudroom, already smiling at the thought of surprising them. Maybe I'd even join them for a beer. Then I heard the voices floating in from the back deck. They were loud. That kind of obnoxious volume that comes with too much whiskey and male bonding. I was about to walk out there when I heard my name. Natalie has no fucking clue, Jason said, and they all burst out laughing. Something in his tone made me freeze. My hand was literally on the door handle, but I couldn't move. I still can't believe you've kept this going for so long, Marcus said. What is it now, 3 years? 4, Jason corrected him, pride dripping from his voice. 4 beautiful years with Ashley. Ashley. The name hit me like a physical blow. Ashley from his CrossFit gym. Ashley, who I'd invited to my birthday party. Ashley, who'd sat at my kitchen table and complimented my cooking. She's 26, boys. Jason continued. 26, tight as a drum, and does things Natalie would never even consider. Last week, while Natalie was at her book club talking about whatever boring novel they're pretending to read, Ashley came over. We christened the dining room table, the same table where Natalie serves her sad attempts at being Martha Stewart. They howled with laughter. I felt my knees buckle. I had to grab the wall to stay upright. And Tuesday, Jason kept going, clearly enjoying his audience. Natalie made me this big anniversary dinner. 6 years since we bought the house, she said, had candles and everything. Little did she know, I'd spent my lunch break at Ashley's apartment absolutely destroying her. Jesus, man. Ryan interrupted, laughing. You're savage. The best part? Jason was really on a roll now. Natalie thinks I'm working late on all these Denver development projects. Meanwhile, I'm at Ashley's place 3 nights a week. Sometimes I come home and Natalie saved me dinner, tells me I work too hard, gives me a massage. If only she knew what I was really tired from. Doesn't she check your credit cards? Todd asked. Joint account for bills, separate for everything else. I told her it was better for taxes. She believed it because, let's be honest, Natalie's sweet, but she's not exactly street smart, too trusting, sees the best in everyone. It's actually what makes this so easy. What about when her dad had that heart surgery? Marcus asked. Didn't Ashley want to go with you to the hospital? Jason laughed. I told Ashley that Natalie was my sister. Can you believe that? She bought it completely. Held my hand at the hospital while Natalie was in the bathroom crying about her dad. It was insane. I covered my mouth to stop from gasping. My dad's surgery. The worst week of my life. Jason had been my rock, or so I thought. He'd held me while I sobbed, terrified I'd lose my father. And Ashley had been there too, in the same building, thinking she was supporting her boyfriend through his brother-in-law's crisis. You're going to have to choose eventually, Ryan said. Why? Jason shot back. I've got the perfect setup. Natalie takes care of the house, handles all the family stuff, makes me look like husband of the year to everyone at work. Meanwhile, Ashley keeps things exciting. Best of both worlds. Until Natalie finds out. Todd warned. She won't. Jason said with absolute confidence. Natalie's not the type to snoop. She trusts me completely. Besides, even if she found out, what's she going to do? She just left her job to focus on starting a family. She needs me. She's got nothing without me. That's when something inside me shifted. The tears stopped. The shaking stopped. Everything went cold and clear. Like I'd been dunked in ice water. I backed away from the door, silent as a ghost, and went upstairs to our bedroom. I sat on the edge of the bed. Our bed, where he'd held me 2 nights ago and told me he loved me, and I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I just sat there letting the fury crystallize into something harder. Something useful. I went back downstairs, grabbed my keys, and left through the garage. They never knew I'd been home. I drove to a Starbucks parking lot and sat there until midnight, Googling divorce lawyers on my phone and taking notes. The barista probably thought I was insane. This woman in yoga pants, stone-faced, researching adultery laws Colorado at 11 p.m. When I finally felt calm enough to speak, I called my college roommate, Elena. Thank God she's a night owl. Nate, everything okay? My life just imploded, I told her, and then I explained everything. Come here right now, she said. Don't go home. Come here. So that's what I did. I spent the night at Elena's apartment in Capitol Hill, pacing her living room while she researched everything from forensic accountants to private investigators. At 3 a.m., Jason texted me, "How's the spa, baby? Miss you." I almost threw my phone at the wall. "Don't respond yet," Elena said, taking my phone. "You need to be smart about this." The next morning, I went home after Jason left for his Sunday golf game, or whatever he was actually doing. I acted normal, told him the spa was relaxing but cut short because Rachel's daughter was sick. He bought it without question, even made me breakfast and asked if I wanted to try that new Italian place for dinner. "That sounds perfect, babe," I said, kissing him on the cheek while mentally cataloging every lie he'd told me. The next 2 weeks were an education in deception. While Jason thought I was shopping for ovulation tests and prenatal vitamins, I was actually meeting with Rebecca Chen, the most ruthless divorce attorney in Denver. She laid out exactly what I needed to do. "Document everything," she said. "Colorado is an equitable distribution state, but adultery can affect alimony and asset division. Get me evidence and I'll get you justice." So I became a detective in my own home. When Jason showered, I went through his phone, found hundreds of messages with Ashley, photos that made me physically ill, hotel reservations, dinner receipts, Venmo transactions with little heart emojis. He'd even bought her jewelry, a $3,000 necklace last Christmas, the same Christmas where he'd given me a $200 gift card to Nordstrom because you're so hard to shop for, babe. I screenshot everything, every message, every photo, every receipt, backed it all up to 3 different cloud services and a physical drive I kept at Elena's place. I found out Ashley wasn't even the first. There'd been a Melissa 2 years ago. A Stephanie before that. The man I'd been trying to have a baby with had been cheating our entire marriage. The financial investigation was even worse. He'd been slowly moving money from our joint investments into accounts I didn't know existed. Not huge amounts, just enough to fly under the radar. But over 4 years, we're talking about nearly $50,000. Money we'd saved for the house renovation, money for our future children's college funds, money I'd contributed from my marketing director's salary before I'd quit to focus on starting our family. 3 weeks into my investigation, I had a binder that would make the FBI jealous. Elena called it the burn book. Rebecca called it Exhibit A through Z. I called it the end of Jason's comfortable little fantasy. But I wasn't ready to pull the trigger yet. If you're going to shoot, you better not miss, right? So I kept playing the devoted wife while setting up my exit strategy. I opened my own bank account at a completely different bank. Started moving my personal items to Elena's, just small things Jason would never notice. My grandmother's jewelry, photo albums, my degrees and certificates. The universe must have been on my side because that's when I found out about the business dinner. Jason's company was hosting this massive client event, a formal dinner at the Brown Palace Hotel. Black tie. The whole production. He'd been stressing about it for weeks because a promotion was on the line. Regional vice president, he kept saying, "The big leagues. I need you to be perfect that night," he told me. "These people need to see I'm regional VP material. Stable family man. Beautiful wife, the whole package." "Of course, baby," I'd said. "I'll get a new dress and everything." What Jason didn't know was that I'd done some additional research. See, Ashley wasn't just some random girl from CrossFit. Her LinkedIn profile, which she'd conveniently made public, showed she worked at Morrison Tech. Morrison Tech, who just happened to be one of Jason's company's biggest competitors. She was listed as a business development coordinator, which seemed weird for someone who supposedly spent 3 nights a week with my husband. So I did what any curious wife would do. I made a fake LinkedIn profile and reached out to some Morrison Tech employees. Turns out Ashley had been very vocal at work about her boyfriend Jason, who was about to become regional VP at their competitor. She'd even bragged about the inside information she'd gotten from him about upcoming bids and contracts. Corporate espionage. My cheating husband wasn't just destroying our marriage, he was potentially destroying his career by piloting proprietary information to his side piece who worked for a competitor. The night of the business dinner arrived, I wore a black dress that cost more than I'd usually spend in 6 months, charged to Jason's credit card naturally. I looked perfect, played perfect, shook hands with his CEO, charmed his senior partners, laughed at their terrible jokes. Jason kept his hand on my lower back all night, showing me off like a prize. "You're amazing," he whispered. During dessert. "I love you so much." "I love you too," I replied, thinking about the divorce papers hidden in my car. If this story is hitting close to home, if you've ever had to smile while planning your escape, hit that like button. Sometimes the strongest thing you can do is play the long game. The next morning, while Jason nursed his hangover, I executed phase 1. I sent an anonymous email to his company's HR department from a burner account. Attached were screenshots of him discussing confidential company information with Ashley, including upcoming contract bids, internal pricing strategies, and client lists. I also included Ashley's LinkedIn profile and her employment details at Morrison Tech. By noon, Jason was in an emergency meeting with HR and legal. By 2 p.m., he was suspended pending investigation. By 3 p.m., he was calling me in a panic. Baby, something insane happened at work. Someone sent these fake emails to HR. Fake, I interrupted. That's weird. Why would someone fake something like that? I don't know. It's obviously someone trying to sabotage my promotion. Maybe Richardson from the Portland office. Oh my God, that's terrible, I said, stirring my coffee at Elena's apartment. Do you need me to come pick you up? No, I'm gonna stay and sort this out. Don't worry, baby. I'll fix this. Phase 2 happened that evening. While Jason was at his lawyer's office trying to salvage his career, I sent a package to Ashley, not to her home, to her office at Morrison Tech. Inside was every photo, every message where Jason called her a naive little girl to his friends, where he laughed about how easy she was, where he described in graphic detail to Marcus what he did with her and how she had daddy issues that made her desperate for validation. I included a note. Thought you should know what your boyfriend really thinks of you. By the way, he's married. I'm his wife, not his sister. Good luck with HR tomorrow. Natalie. Ashley must have opened it right away because by 6 p.m., Jason's phone was exploding. I watched from the couch as he tried to silence call after call, his face getting paler with each declined ring. Who keeps calling? I asked innocently. Spam calls, he muttered. You know how it is? Phase 3 was the grand finale. The next morning, while Jason was meeting with his lawyer about the corporate espionage situation, I had him served with divorce papers at his office. But not just any divorce papers, the special ones Rebecca had prepared that included every piece of evidence. Every screenshot, every receipt, every photo, a forensic accounting of the money he'd stolen. All of it. The process server told me later that Jason actually laughed at first, thinking it was part of some elaborate prank. Then he opened the folder. The server said he'd never seen someone's face change color so fast. Jason called me 17 times in the next hour. I didn't answer. He texted me novels about how it wasn't what it looked like, how Ashley meant nothing, how he'd been confused, how we could work through this. Finally, he sent, "Where are you? We need to talk." I responded with just one line. I was home that Saturday. I heard everything. The typing bubbles appeared and disappeared for 10 straight minutes. Finally, Natalie, please, let me explain. Explain to my lawyer. I replied, then blocked his number. The fallout was swift and brutal. Jason's company fired him for cause. The corporate espionage thing gave them perfect grounds, and it meant no severance, no unemployment benefits. Ashley was also terminated from Morrison Tech for violating their code of conduct and conflict of interest policies. Turns out her company really didn't appreciate her using her relationship to gather competitive intelligence, even if she thought it was just pillow talk. Jason tried to salvage his reputation by claiming I was a vindictive ex making things up, but the evidence was overwhelming. His friends, those same guys who'd laughed about his conquest, suddenly wanted nothing to do with him. Marcus blocked him after his own wife Priya found out about the boys' night conversation. Apparently Priya and I had gotten pretty close at a few dinner parties, and she was horrified that Marcus had known and said nothing. Their marriage imploded too. Ryan ended up telling his girlfriend, thinking she'd find it funny. She didn't. Todd was the only one who stood by Jason. Which makes sense. Todd was going through his second divorce for similar reasons. My favorite part was when Jason showed up at Elena's apartment. He'd figured out where I was staying. He looked destroyed, unshaven, wrinkled clothes, eyes bloodshot. This was maybe 2 weeks after everything exploded. Natalie, please, just talk to me. He begged through the door. Elena started to call the police, but I stopped her. I opened the door but didn't let him in. You've ruined my life, he said. I laughed. Actually laughed. No, Jason, you ruined your own life. I just made sure everyone knew about it. I lost everything. My job, my reputation, my future. Your choices. Your consequences. I cut him off. Did you think about my future when you were screwing Ashley in our house? Did you think about my reputation when you told your friends I was too stupid to figure it out? Did you think about anything besides yourself? I loved you, he said, starting to cry. No, I said firmly. You loved having me. You loved the image, the devoted wife who made you look good, the woman who quit her job to support your career, the idiot who trusted you completely. But you never loved me. People don't destroy what they love. What am I supposed to do now? He asked, like I would somehow solve this for him. I don't care, I said. And I meant it. That's not my problem anymore. I closed the door on him. Elena poured me a glass of wine and we watched Netflix like nothing had happened. But inside I felt something I hadn't felt in weeks. Peace. The divorce was finalized 3 months later. Thanks to Colorado's laws and the documented adultery and financial misconduct, I got the house, my car, and a significant portion of our assets. Jason had to liquidate his precious BMW and his golf club membership to pay my attorney fees. He also had to pay me alimony for 3 years. Not a fortune, but enough to give me time to rebuild my career. He moved back in with his parents in Colorado Springs. At 37 years old, the man who'd bragged about having the perfect setup was sleeping in his childhood bedroom with his participation trophies from high school on the shelves. Ashley tried to contact me once, about a month after everything went down. She sent me a long Facebook message about how she never knew he was married, how sorry she was, how she'd been a victim too. I didn't respond, but I did notice she'd moved back to Texas according to her profile. Both their careers in Denver were effectively over. Word travels fast in professional circles, and nobody wants to hire someone involved in that kind of scandal. The last I heard from Jason was 6 months after the divorce. He sent me an email, I hadn't blocked that, saying he'd been going to therapy, that he'd realized what he'd lost, that he was becoming a better person. He asked if I could ever forgive him. I sent back, forgiveness isn't for you. It's for me. And I forgave myself for trusting you. That's all the forgiveness I need. It's been a year now since that night on the deck when my world shattered. I'm back at work, actually got hired as creative director at a better agency than my old one. Turns out, taking a year off to focus on family and then going through a public divorce makes for an interesting interview story when you own it with confidence. I bought a condo in Lodo, smaller than the house, but it's mine. Every wall color, every piece of furniture, every tiny decision is mine. There's something healing about creating a space where no lies ever lived. I'm dating again. Nothing serious yet, just coffee dates and dinners with men who actually show up when they say they will. My therapist says I'm doing remarkably well, though she wishes I'd cry more. You processed the anger, she says. But have you processed the grief? Maybe she's right. Maybe someday I'll mourn the future. I thought I was building. The children we never had. The lake house we never bought. The growing old together we'd never do. But right now, I'm too busy building something new to cry over blueprints that were drawn on quicksand. Elena says I'm her hero. Rebecca, my attorney, asked if she could use my case as a training example for new lawyers with names changed. Of course. My sister Rachel calls me Phoenix because I rose from the ashes. My dad, who's fully recovered from his surgery, says he's never been prouder of me. I never liked Jason, he admitted recently. Something about him always seemed performed. Sometimes I drive past our old house, I shouldn't, but I do. The new owners painted it yellow. I hate yellow, but Jason hated it more, so that makes me smile. The dining room where he and Ashley had their afternoon together now probably hosts some nice family's dinners. Good. That house deserves better memories. People ask me if I regret how I handled things, if I should have just confronted him that night, had it out, moved on quietly. They suggest I went too far, that I was vindictive, that I should have taken the high road. Here's what I tell them. The high road is a luxury for people who weren't betrayed in their own home, for people whose partners didn't laugh about their humiliation with friends, for people who didn't have their future stolen and their past revealed as a lie. I didn't take the high road or the low road. I took the only road that led me back to myself. If you're still here, still listening to this story, you're probably in one of two camps. Either you've lived through something similar, and you're nodding along, recognizing the emotions, the strategic planning, the cold fury that keeps you moving when falling apart would be easier. Or you've been lucky enough to never experience this kind of betrayal, and you're horrified that people like Jason exist, that someone could be so calculated in their cruelty. To the first group, you're going to be okay. Better than okay. The person who broke you doesn't get to define your rebuilding. To the second group, trust. But verify. Love fully, but never lose yourself so completely that you can't find your way back. And to anyone wondering what happened to Jason recently, I honestly don't know. I heard through mutual acquaintances that he'd moved to Phoenix for some startup job, that he was dating someone new, that he'd reinvented himself as a relationship coach on social media, which is ironic enough to be true. I don't check. I don't care. He's a ghost from another life, and I'm too busy living this one. Last week, I was having drinks with some new friends from work. We were laughing about disaster dates and weird exes, and someone asked about my worst relationship story. For a moment, I considered telling them everything. Then I realized Jason doesn't get to be my story anymore. He's just a chapter I've already turned the page on. Oh, I said, sipping my martini, just your standard divorced at 34 situation. But hey, better to find out someone's true character before kids are involved, right? They all agreed, and we moved on to talking about weekend plans and the new Thai place that opened downtown, and I sat there genuinely laughing, genuinely present, genuinely free. The woman Jason thought was too trusting, too naive, too dependent to ever figure it out. She's gone. She died that night on the deck when I heard him laughing. But the woman who rose from those ashes, the one who planned every move like a chess grandmaster, who turned his mockery into his downfall, who rebuilt a life from scorched earth, she's doing just fine. Better than fine. She's magnificent. And if you've made it this far in my story, if you're rebuilding from your own ashes or walking through your own fire right now, hit that subscribe button. We're not just survivors here. We're architects of our own resurrection, and that's worth following.